What's good? It's your boy, HizWill, your host for the Peace and Mohair Grease podcast. What's good, y'all? And welcome to my new podcast. Now, on this podcast, I talk about entertainment stuff, movies, TV, series, all that type of stuff, entertainment news, music, everything. You can also catch me on my other channel, the HizWill channel, where I do reaction videos. That's my reaction channel. So I'll be doing that here. And on this channel, it's going to be the podcast. So if you guys want to be a part of it, you want to talk about some movies or, share your story, chop it up, whatever, hit me up at Peace and Mohair Grease podcast at gmail.com, and I'll put it down below for you guys so you can see that. So today I wanted to talk briefly. This is episode 2, so I wanted to talk about the new movie, which happens to be one of my favorite genres, the zombie genre. Now, this movie is it's called Alive, and it takes place in South Korea. Now, the basis of the story is basically it's a city. They really don't go into the origins of what happened. It was some type of virus that broke out, and what happened was there was a lot of people. It was kind of like what's that Brad Pitt movie? That was one of the best zombie movies, and I can't even think about the name. I'll probably put it down somewhere once I figure it out. Dang, I hate when I forget stuff. But basically, it was a bomb movie too. Dang, but it reminds me of that because it was similar in the way it broke out. Now, you have a young man. Probably in his early teens, probably his late teens, maybe early 20s. I'll put him in 20-ish. He's a gamer and all that stuff. So, he starts off, he's talking to his friends on the game and just doing all that type of stuff. And, all of a sudden he starts hearing his buddies and stuff saying stuff like, hey, y'all see what's going on in the news? That can't be real, blah, blah, blah. So, of course, he turns on the news and he see all this mayhem breaking out. But then what he does, he goes and looks outside. Now, he's in this high-rise apartment, and it's a whole complex with several buildings and apartment buildings and stuff. And it is all kind of mayhem going down in the street down below and around him and the neighbors and stuff. And then what happens is... now, if you guys haven't seen the movie, it's probably gonna be some spoilers because this is what I talk about. We gonna be talking about spoilers in this movie because I got to tell y'all what's going on. So basically, what happens is his neighbor or somebody busts in the door, okay, and this is when everything starts to begin. Now, his neighbor busts in the door and he's all frantic, talking about I'm a neighbor, you see me sometimes, blah, blah, blah. He's going crazy. And it's also English dubbed as well, so you can watch it in that. If you guys don't mind that, I don't mind reading either for y'all amateurs. Yeah, because some of them martial arts movies you got to read the subtitles, and I don't have no problem with reading the subtitles either because it's good. I just want to get to the action. Sometimes it'd be good till you be sitting there like, oh, okay. But anywho, so he comes in the apartment all frantic. Now, the crazy thing is he opens the door up. As soon as he opens the door, the buddy busts in, or the neighbor busts in, and he just busts on into the apartment. He's like, what are you doing? And so what happens is he's acting all weird and stuff like that. And me, because I'm a veteran in zombie movies, I know what's about to go down. So basically, he's like, yeah, can I use your bathroom? I was like, oh yeah, something happened. He must have been bit or something. And he comes out, he's like, yeah, And now, these foreign films, now, if you ever seen Train to Busan or another like South Korean zombie movie, They come out with some. Now that movie was off the chain. That zombie movie was off the train. The Train to Busan, and it was good. It was funny and all that stuff. Now, I say bring that up because the way they do the when they morph into zombies, that's very important. And in this movie Alive on Netflix, now first of all, it's very good quality. The way that he changed into a zombie, I haven't seen that before in movies. It's similar to like some of the werewolf movies where they talk about how they transition into becoming a werewolf, and you know some movies get it right. Like for instance, you have the Werewolf in London. It's one of the ones that came out in the early, it was late 90s, because I remember working at the movie theater then, and that movie came out, American Werewolf in Paris, and the transitions and stuff was real good on that movie. And there's been some other movies that's come out. I love those type of movies as well, but the zombie movie, this Alive movie, it was great. And let me tell you why. When you're looking at him, it's like his eyes start filling up with red, the veins bursting, and it's red. It's crazy. It's like a glass filling up. And what happens is when they fill up, blood starts to come down his out his tear ducts. And so when he's changing, in the middle of him changing, he starts doing convulsions, kind of like he crump dancing, all that stuff. And let me tell you something. Watching that was crazy. Now the crazy thing about it is he's standing in front of the door, so he's all this time. The young man, he goes and gets a knife, and he's like, "Look, I told you to leave." And meanwhile, this dude's having convulsions, pop locking and dropping in the doorway, and so he's like, "What is going on?" And he's doing all these noises and doing all this stuff, and then what happens is he changes into the zombie. He'll pause, and then all of a sudden, boom, he lunges at him, and so he's like, "Oh," so they fight and stuff. So then what happens is, right as he kind of changed, the apartment owner, the young man, he pushes him out the door. Now, meanwhile, I forgot to tell you, while he's changing, he's trying to open up the door to get out. So he still has a little, you can tell how his humanity is fading, and he's going into that virus zombie state. So they push it, you push him through the door, and then outside the door, this big dude zombie comes and just like destroys the other dude. Like all you see is his little leglets up in the air because he flipped him upside down and slammed him on the floor and stuff. And I was like, dang, he tore him up. Now, so that ensues, and so his parents, he'd been trying to get over his parents and stuff was leaving, and then dad went somewhere, like they was out of town or something. They was or downtown or somewhere where the father was in his office, and so they trying to call and leave voicemails. But as you see it, he's number one, he's only got a little bit of food. His mom told him, "Hey, get more groceries," and he even said, "I should have got more groceries." So he had his junk and not too much stuff. So he dealing with that, and then he started playing his game. Of course, the servers go down, and so eventually stuff just started cutting down. One by one, electricity and stuff goes out, and then stuff like that. Now he goes kind of mad, which is, you can imagine. He had, because he had a drone, so he had the drone going outside the building, kind of checking the scene. And meanwhile, he's watching people down below, like police officers and stuff, running and shooting, and then they get overtaken by the zombies and turning into zombies. So he's seeing this happen while he's on this high rise. And there's one scene where he did was put his refrigerator in front of the door, and then that big zombie dude busts into the door and pushes the refrigerator. So he's pushing, and he's trying to do this. He's like, oh man, I can't. What am I gonna do? And so I think he had a golf club. He started hitting him with it. Boom, boom, boom. Eventually, he gets the zombie out of the door, puts the stuff in the doorway, but he starts to hallucinate, saying, his mom and sister and stuff coming in. And so what I think happened was when he had enough, he decides to go out of the apartment, walk down the hallway, and I think what he was doing, he just started beating on some zombies and stuff, and he was trying to, I think that's his snap moment where he trying to, like, you know what, forget it, it's gonna end it all. And so he does that. No, that wasn't the part. He just got mad and wanted to go see. So he walks out there. Of course, you know what happens. It eventually, he turns into he gets cornered. Sorry, excuse me. There's some stuff going on. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, so eventually he gets cornered. So, he's fighting off these zombies. He sees one eating in the hallway, and they crawling from him into him. And so he's fighting off these zombies, and then a whole slew of them comes. And so he's hiding and stuff. And so what happens is he, away from his apartment, of course, like down the hall and around the corner. So he's hiding. So he had to run, and he's hiding in between like the indentions of the wall by some suitcases, and they run past him. And so when he goes back up, he goes around, and he's like, so he sees a group of them in the hallway by his doors. So he's walking, and he turns around. There's a zombie behind him. Here's the kicker: the zombie is blind. It's a blind police officer. So he's just walking, making that weird noise like the movie. I don't know why my memory is going crazy right now. The movie with the girl with the long hair coming out the TV, The Ring, making them type of noises and stuff. That's kind of like, is The Ring what I'm thinking about? Yeah. Okay. But anywho, yeah. And making that type noise, and so he's hiding in between the dinges of the wall, and he walks past him, and so he gets behind him, and he starts walking and following him as he keeps walking and walking and walking. Then he jumps into this apartment and closes the door, and they turn around, and he's hiding, and they come run to the door, and he's trying to hold the door. Now here's the thing: in zombie movies over the years, there are different types of zombies. We're going to get into more into the genre, and we'll do that after this brief interlude. It's time for a break, y'all. We're just going to talk about some news that's been going on here. Just a couple of little news. Sticking with the zombie genre, Walking Dead is coming to an end. But is it though? Because there's supposed to be a spin-off with Daryl and Carol, I believe. That's going to be. Now they've always been. Look, I stopped watching it after a few seasons because it just got too much. I was like, it was doing too much for me because there was some exciting stuff and it was going good, and I just got tired of watching it. It's just what it is. Kind of like the show Lost. I've never watched it, but you see all these random people. You're on an island, then all these random people keep coming and popping up, something similar to that. It's like this with Walking Dead. I mean, it was some great seasons when I watched too, and it was just too much after a while. And you start getting too attached to these characters, and I had to take a break. And so, yeah, the last season, that's coming to an end, but it's supposed to be an expanded season 11, which begins 2021. So that's coming. So that's coming up. And I don't know. I still don't know if I'm gonna watch it, and I don't know. I just had about enough. Also, in other news, it looks like the Kardashians. Everybody jokes about that. I used to watch that in the first couple of seasons. It was pretty good. It was just interesting, seeing that. But they are coming to an end as well. They're in the last season, It's been a long season, and they're coming to the end. This is going to be the last season, is in 2021. So you guys be looking out for that. I'm sure it's going to be other stuff, coming up. And with them, they've basically taken over from E! News, all that stuff. So, hold on, let me turn this thing. But yeah, so that's coming, and so you guys look out for that. Now, that's just a couple of news snippets for you. Now, where were we? Okay, yes. So back to the zombies. Now, there's certain kind of zombies, and what I like about these particular zombie movies, there was, Zombieland, which was real good. Zombieland, part 2 was cool too, but part 1 I think was a little bit better. And they could have ended it at that, but it is what it is. Now, you see in the zombie movie all those rules. He was breaking out the rules and stuff with the zombies. Now, in this particular zombie movie, it was a mix between, I would say, like 28 Days, Zombieland. There's a couple of other flicks, but the zombies were, these zombies are starting to get a little bit smarter now. These particular zombies, I call them runners, because they had chased. They just not walking slow and stuff like that. They run after you. And if you remember in the Brad Pitt movie that I can't remember right now, which is Bomb. You know what? I can't. I have to get the movie because I can't do that. Y'all just bear with me real quick. Brad Pitt movie. Because I have to get it because there's so much references to it. World War Z. Thank you. Thanks, Google. World War Z. Now, that was one of the best silver screen movies, zombie movies I have seen. Another different genre that you don't really seem too much is Ninja. I believe that's. It came out in I believe probably around 2008, 9, something like that. But the movie Ninja, that was also another one of the best ninja flicks I saw, and I always watch it when it comes on. Ninja Assassin. I always watch it when it comes on. It was an excellent movie. But anyway, back to the zombie movies. Similar to World War Z, it was a similar breakout, and those were runners, boy. They were runners, and you see how they was running and piling up on each other to get up over the wall and get up to helicopter. It was just different. Now, these zombies are smart as well because they're not only runners, but a lot of the zombies were doing, like, they would go to work normal because the news reports were saying that on the movies. But then you got to see something. For instance, there was a scene where there's a fireman. And, before that part, I have to tell you what happened with the boy. So he goes to the hallway, gets back in, and so he decides he wants to kill himself. So he decides to hang himself on the fan in the living room. However, across the courtyard in another adjacent building is a young girl who's by herself, and she flashes that red pointer, and he's like, what? oh, that's somebody. And so now he's struggling trying to get off the thing. So he finally gets out, falls, and she uses the little thing to point, like, don't be stupid. Point at different stuff that was on the wall with her. She had her binoculars and a little pointer, so she was looking at stuff on this wall and spelling stuff. And so, long story short, they become friends, and they ended up, he takes his drone and shoots a string across, so she sends him some more food and blah, blah, blah. And now she tried to throw a baseball across the courtyard. Of course, that falls short. And it falls down in front of her building. Now, the fireman was a zombie. And, of course, they're trained to climb. So what does he do? You got it. He starts climbing up the building. Because that's what, it's just training and stuff. They know how to do that stuff. So they start doing that. So he starts climbing up this building. And meanwhile, when he pulls the string, he pulls the table. The girl turns around, and it hits her in her side, her ribs, knocks her out. Shit, lightweight. It is what it is. And so he's seeing all this take place, because they form a friendship. They're talking and stuff. And so they end up. He flies his drone over there to try to move it, get the zombie, cuts the zombie face, blah, blah, blah. Then the zombie grabs the thing and throws it. He gets all the way up to the top, latches on to the balcony to the girl's room after he crushes the drone. And what happens? You know what happens. Yeah. And what happens? She wakes up, all of a sudden, boom, chops his hand off, the zombie falls down, boom, he's gone. So he's over with. So that's cool. So they're figuring out, hey, we got to stop this. We gotta end up getting out of here somehow. So what he does is he says, look, we got to do something, come together. You come over here. And so he's like, okay, I'm going to go down first, and then you get to do that because something happens and the zombies run somewhere else, but they're still down there. She has some equipment and stuff. She's like, okay, I'm coming now. 1, she said, on 3. And he's still talking like, yeah, so, I'm going to come down. This is the plan. She runs, jumps out the window in the balcony, swings around and jumps down with the rope. And she's bobbing and weaving and hitting and ducking, and he watching her just do all these moves and stuff, knocking these zombies upside their head. She rolling, flipping in cars. They crawling in one end. She popping out the other end, but then they corner her on the ground, and all of a sudden, boom, he's hit because he's down, and he knocks her out. So they fighting through all this stuff to get to the building. They finally get to the building, and they're fighting. They're getting closer, and somebody pulls her in, and he's out there fighting. Then he throws some smoke bombs, and so that he can, so the boy can get in there, and then boom, they're in the apartment with this guy, and they're like, hey, what's going on? He's like, you guys want some food? There's plenty of food here and water. And they were nervous about drinking the water, and so they did that, and then all of a sudden they fall asleep. They eating spam and what are they eating? Spam and some noodles or something. And so anyway, they fall asleep. He zip ties them. She's still in and out of the sleep because he gulped the water down. She was just kind of taking it. And so come to find out, his wife been in the room. He been feeding people to her. So he throws her into the room with the girl, and he has this contraption set up with this long leather belt, and he teases the people. So he's holding them, and then he lets it go slowly while she's lunging at the girl. And then he wakes up, hits home, and says, you better stop. He has a gun because there was a gun out in the thing and leaving out little bits and pieces. But anyway, he had a gun on his person, and he pointed at the guy. He's like, look, you better let her go. It's about to go down. And so he's like, no, I just want to why don't you go? You can get out of here. I'm just gonna let her. My wife has to eat. She's been starving. I'm like, wow. So he lets the belt go, but the boy grabs it, and the man's just standing there looking. And he's like, just let her go. You can leave, just let her. And so the dude starts coming closer and closer to him, and he lets the belt go. He's like, no. And so then the noise is starting, the girl screaming, and the screaming stops. And then so he goes in there. And what happens? The girl comes out. She then threw a sheet over the wife's head and pushes her out the door onto him, and he starts eating them. And so she has a gun, and she shoots him and her in the head, kills them. They gone. The gunshot rings out, and you know zombies, they hear like, man, I swear they can hear a mouse pissing on cotton. They hear anything, they all swarm. So they all swarming to that apartment, and they're like, oh man. So they're like, no. They're out there, what are we gonna do? And so he's like, okay. Now I thought she had got bit, because she was like, go ahead and shoot me. And they was like, no. So right when he's about to pull the trigger to shoot, because they was gonna kill themselves, then helicopters fly over. They're like, what? So they bust out that apartment, run down the hallway, running, fighting off zombies to get to the roof so they can show them. And boom, 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 they do all this stuff. He almost gets towed up, and then they get to the roof, and nothing. And they're like, no, they start crying. Where's the helicopters? Come back, no. We're still alive. They're yelling. Meanwhile, they had this little old ladder pushing the door open. Obviously, the zombies bust through. And then you have it. Here comes the military, comes up right before they get him and shooting. He shoots a couple of shots, he's done. His bullet only had a couple of rounds left. Throw that gun away. Then all of a sudden, helicopter comes up from the bottom behind the building all dramatic, and the soldiers just knocking them down. So they hop on the helicopter. Soldiers get on, and they fly off into the sunset to the new places. And then as the social media comes up, everybody is posting the people that's still alive in the apartment. So you start seeing these little photos. They have the zoom out of the buildings, and you see the comic book strips, the stuff that pop up like the little circles, like, oh, and it says words in it. But these are the pictures popping up in the apartments. So you see the picture, and it's different social media posts, and so that's coming up. And so they going through all that, and they're doing that, this, that, and the other. And so that's the survivors, and they do that now. That's pretty much the movie. But what I was saying earlier was the zombies are smart. They're runners. I love zombie movies and stuff, but some of the stuff you just have to be smart about, eventually you have to do what you got to do, but it's always good to team up with somebody if you can. Try to go to the nearby apartments by if you're there, wherever you're trying to raid different stuff, if you somehow get to the roof or something, it's just different scenarios. In this movie, I guess they had to do what they had to do, but you just want to be smart about it. Always go for the head, that different stuff. But that was basically the movie, and that has been this episode of the Peace and Mo Hair Grease podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed episode 2 where we discussed the live. And like I said, if there's any movies or genres or anything that you guys want to put down in the comments, make sure you like, comment down below, subscribe, all that good stuff. And leave the stuff in the bottom if there's something you want to talk to me about. Well, I'll see if I've seen that movie. We can just discuss. So you guys want to talk about the zombie genres? Let's talk about it. Maybe we'll go through some of the top movies and the zombie flicks. It's hard to come by. There's not too many good movies that come by that's pretty good. There's some that's some sleepers, but there's also some that's not too good. So I hope y'all enjoyed this, man. And, like I always say, it's peace and more hair grease. You dig? Ooh-wee. And I'm out like a sprout, no doubt.